Today's park ranking takes us to one of the most promising parks in the new Six Flags chain. I'm talking about Six Flags over Georgia. Now, I know given some things I have said in the past about this park, hearing that might be kind of surprising. However, the new mega chain has already stated that they see the potential that the Atlanta market has, and they acknowledge that it has not gotten the investment that it should have. So as it stands, when I'm recording this, there are 12 operational coasters at the park. I would not be surprised if in the next few years, there are more. 2024 has been kind of a weird year for this park because it gained a roller coaster and lost one that they were not planning on losing. The addition being Georgia Gold Rusher, the subtraction being Kid Flash Cosmic Coaster, which didn't even operate for a full year. So in theory, they should have 13 right now, but alas, here we are. Just had to acknowledge that before we started. May Kid Flash Cosmic Coaster rest in peace. Now, on to the fun stuff. So coming in at number 12, we have one of my least favorite roller coasters I've ever been on. That would be Blue Hawk, which is a Vekoma MK 1200. Stands 122 feet tall, goes 52 miles per hour, has 5 very uncomfortable inversions, and has one of the world's slowest lift hills. Yeah. It's actually a relocation. It was originally called Kamikaze, and it was located pretty close to my hometown in Wildwood, New Jersey. It operated there from 1989 to 1991 and then made its way to Austell, Georgia, where it sucks. At number 11, we have Joker Funhouse Coaster, which really there's nothing wrong with it. It's a family coaster, it's fun. It's surprisingly better than you'd think it would be. That being said though, there is a pretty good lineup at this park, like I said, so it's not gonna make its way too high on the list. If you guys enjoy rankings as much as we do, check us out on cameo.com/coasterstudios, where we will send you a personalized 3 to 5 minute video reacting to any list you might have. Your top 10 favorite roller coasters, your 10 least favorite roller coasters, your favorite B&Ms that start with the letter A, whatever you want to send in. You could ask us for advice, opinions, or just a simple hello or happy birthday. This is a great way to support the channel while giving us a fun way to interact with you. cameo.com/coasterstudios. At the number 10 spot is a coaster that, had I done this probably 2 years ago, this would have easily been at the number 12 spot, but I'm giving it a little bit of credit because post-retrack, it's actually not too bad. That is the Great American Scream Machine. This is a PTC coaster, height of 105 feet, speed 57 miles per hour. It does a whole lot of nothing, but in the past, it did nothing in a painful way. Now, it does nothing in a comfortable way. It's been open since 1973, so it's not too surprising that it's not absolutely out of this world. But again, I give them credit for taking care of it and putting it into a much better shape than it was a few years ago. For number 9, we have a coaster that was one of the most overhyped rides that I've ever experienced. That would be Riddler Mindbender. Now, from what I understand, this ride used to be significantly better a few years ago, quite the inverse of Great American Scream Machine. With all the work that it had done to it, it somehow got, as the kids would say, neutered. The trains are a bit shorter. They're actually made by B&M now, and it is a Schwarzkopf coaster, so it's a very odd combination. But it really doesn't run well. And it's also one of the least thrilling Schwarzkopf coasters I think that I've done. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of this was based on expectations. Given the purge that's been going on with the new Six Flags chain, I would not be surprised if this only had a few years left. We've slowly but surely been seeing the closure of many Schwarzkopf coasters over the years, and this is just really not one of their best. At number 8, we have Daredevil Dive, a Gerstlauer Eurofighter with fabulous alliteration. Stands 95 feet tall, goes 52 miles an hour, and goes upside down 3 times. Now, I've had a mixture of experiences on this ride. Sometimes I really like it, and sometimes it's a little forgettable. The vertical lift hill is very eye-catching and cool, but funny enough, I've done a version of this ride in Belgium that is a near clone, except you launch at the beginning, and I actually think that makes the ride 10 times better. Like I said, it's a fine ride and everything. It just, to me, is not the standout attraction at this park. At the number 7 spot, we have the brand new Georgia Gold Rusher. This is a first of its kind Intamin Ultra Surf, which is kind of an expansion upon the idea of the Intamin half pipe. These are larger, much faster, and much nicer to look at. It's got a height of 144 feet, top speed 60 miles an hour, a multi-pass LSM launch that takes you up 2 spikes and spins around while you do it. And of course, a splashdown, which doesn't get you wet, don't worry. Now, this is a weird one because when it was announced, it was called Georgia Surfer, which makes sense because the ride vehicle looks like a surfboard. Enter Cedar Fair, and they're like, this is a little tacky. Why don't we kind of make this nicer, make it prettier? And thus, Georgia Gold Rusher was born. I can't really think of many other times, if ever, that a roller coaster was renamed and repainted prior to opening. I can guarantee that what they decided to do was a lot nicer than what it was going to be, but it was just an all-around weird situation because, like, they had a whole contest for naming the coaster, and that just totally got tossed. So whoever came up with the name Georgia Surfer, I feel for you, man. It's a great supporting cast member for the park. They needed a launch coaster. I hope eventually they get like a more proper full circuit launch coaster, but this is really solid. The airtime hill is really good, and you actually get really high up on those spikes. I approve. Now moving on to number 6, we have the Delana Mine Train. I was not a fan of this Aero Mine Train for a while. That is until one day I just happened to have an absolutely hilariously fun ride and my entire opinion changed. It's not very big. We're talking a height of 37 feet, goes 29 miles per hour, super duper old school. But riding next to a friend and just getting thrashed around into each other is so fun. Now that it's grown on me, it reminds me a lot of Adventure Express at Kings Island. It's super low to the ground at points. It's just an absolutely bizarre ride, but what else do you expect from an old Aero Mine Train, right? So it might seem weird that I have it this high, but seriously, ride with one of your best friends and tell me that you did not get a fantastic laugh out of it. At number 5, we have Superman Ultimate Flight, which is a B&M flying coaster. There are 3 of these in the Six Flags chain, so I've gotten kind of used to them over time, but I'm trying to be a little bit more objective here, and it is a fun ride. I'm just not super duper into flying coasters, but I like the way that this one uses the terrain. Has a height of 106 feet, goes 51 miles per hour, and fun fact, it actually has the first ever pretzel loop inversion, which we have all come to know as being one of the most intense inversions in the entire world. That being said, there are much better flying coasters out there, but it still deserves credit where credit is due, and it's a solid credit. At number 4, we have a coaster that is a bit of a rarity in my personal life, which is a stand-up coaster that I actually like. That would be Georgia Scorcher. Personally, out of all of the OG styled B&M stand-up coasters, I think this one's the best. It has a really good layout, and I don't feel like I'm getting my head banged around. I cannot say the same for some other B&M stand-up coasters that I've done. We have a height of 107 feet, 54 miles per hour. It goes upside down twice, and it's nearly 26 years old. However, unlike its cousin over at Six Flags Great Adventure, I imagine this one's not going anywhere for a while. I think if I'm over Georgia, there are a few other coasters that I would prioritize giving the boot to before this one. Because all things considered, it's still running great. It takes a lot for me to like one of these things. So I promise it's actually good. At the number 3 spot, we have Batman the Ride, which, yes, I know there are like a bajillion of these out there. However, if you have not ridden the one at Over Georgia, you will not understand what I'm talking about. This Batman runs so much faster than any of the other Batman clones around the world. And that's not just a feeling, that's a fact. But the park knows it and they love it that way. It's not even close in competition. It is the best Batman clone ever made. And if you are a fan of any of the other ones at other parks, you are going to be absolutely mind blown riding this one. It is so intense, so whippy, so out of control. Usually I find the Batman rides to be kind of forgettable just because I've done them so many times, but I will never, ever, ever skip this one. At number 2, we have a ride that is very, very special to me, and that would be Twisted Cyclone. This was my first ever RMC coaster. When I first rode it, I was so blown away. I probably could have made an argument for it to be like my number 2 or 3 favorite coaster. However, now I've ridden pretty much all of them that they have open in the world, and I can admit to myself now that this is one of their weaker ones. However, even a weak RMC is one of the best roller coasters on the planet. It is the definition of small but mighty. We're talking 100 feet tall, 50 miles per hour, 3 inversions, and it feels like riding a wave. The way you maneuver between each element is so satisfying. It has a great little pre-lift section, and did I mention that it is absolutely stunning? The blue track on like the white structure, I feel like people sometimes underestimate just how good these smaller RMCs can be, and I will always have a special place in my heart for this one. And finally, at number 1, we gotta give it to Goliath, the B&M Hyper. I can admit that this is probably the best layout on any B&M hypercoaster. The only reason that I ever put it a little bit lower in the grand scheme of B&M hypers is simply the way that it rides. It can be a little shaky and a little tough to ride several times in a row, unlike other B&M hypercoasters like Mako or Shambhala. It actually, ironically, runs a little bit more like the newer B&M coasters. It's not enough to deter me from riding or to deter me from making it the best coaster at the park, clearly, but I do wish it ran better because truly, I think that I could dethrone Nitro for this coaster if it ran a bit smoother. So there you have it, folks. Every roller coaster at Six Flags over Georgia ranked. Out of all of the parks in the new mega chain, this is definitely one of the ones I'm most excited to keep my eye on. Like I said at the beginning, I think that a lot of investment is going to go into this park in the coming years. I know Georgia Gold Rusher is technically a launch coaster, but I would love to see them get something like a little more fully fleshed out, maybe like a multi-launch coaster from Vekoma, Intamin, or Mach. I truly think the sky's the limit on this one, and I will be eagerly awaiting those announcements in the future. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm happy to hear suggestions of any parks that you want to hear about going forward. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.